2019, and introductions are, on my left is Commissioner Deb Shore, and Commissioner and Vice Chair Sean Flowerday, and on my right is Commissioner Krista Yoakum. Commissioner Rick Vest will be coming shortly, I'm sure. I'm Commissioner Roma Amundson, Chair of the Board, and will you also please recite the Pledge of Allegiance with me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. And Mr. Chair, will you begin the meeting?
A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is located on the wall at the rear of the hearing room. Additionally, a copy of all written material to be discussed at today's open meeting is available from the county clerk staff at the front of the hearing room. The material can also be viewed on the county's website at lancaster.ne.gov. Agenda item 1 is final action on real property valuation protest for 2019, Great Plains Appraisal Referee Coordinator.
Okay, Great Plains, will you please come forward? And good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Cody Gertis with Great Plains Appraisal. I'd also like to introduce my partners, Lori Johnson and Jason Pickrell, co-coordinators with us this year. Before we get into any comments, we do have 3 minor changes to the record that you have in front of yourself. There are 3 changes, 2 of which are typographical errors, and 1 was a review that we conducted of pending Turk appraisals. So I'd like to present those to you, and we can discuss them.
I can just take those and pass them down.
And I just want to state, too, that these are not additional data that was heard. This is just part of our overall review process. 2 of these, again, are typographical errors. Simply just numbers got switched. They were very close, but we just didn't quite get them. And then 1 was a Turk pending, where we reviewed the listing as we were working through the Turk pending list, just to ensure that we were being consistent with the process and understanding if there was any new information available this year that was not in the packets in the former years. So with that, there are 3 changes. On the top of your packet, there is the record of every protest heard this year, and we have pulled each sheet. So the first one is page 48 of 376. You'll see there this is 19335. This was originally a $307,600 assessment. We approved a change to $298,000. That was actually supposed to be $286,000. The number just got switched by the referee. We didn't catch it on review, but did catch it on the second go around before we put it in. So the difference there would become $21,600. That would be our recommendation on that one. The sheet following that would just simply be that referee recommendation letter updated. The clerk will have these, but we also pulled the original for the packet as well to reflect this change. The next one is page 216 of 376. This is the second from the top. It's number 1521. That was an original assessment of $672,000. We recommended originally a no change. After reviewing this was the Turk pending. We did realize that there were some changes to the property. We tried to understand what the property owner said was there, what the assessor said was there, reconciled those together, and we do recommend a change of $528,100, which would be a difference of $142,100. Again, the corresponding referee report reflecting that. And the last one, I only have the front page because this one just came to us. Page 209 of 376. This is protest 19474. It's Condev West, but it's Dillard's at the mall. It's the property. This one was original assessment at $8,193,100. The referee recommendation was $5,901,800. That was actually an assessor's recommendation from a Turk settlement that was settled for 2018 year, and it was going to be applied to this year. When we got the email from the assessor, it was just a number was off. So the change is $5,801,000 $800 rather than the 901. A total difference from the original assessment would be $2,391,300. We would recommend that as well. All three of these will be filed appropriately per your approval.
Okay.
You have any questions on those couple things?
I don't believe so.
Okay. First off, we'd like to tell you thanks as the board. Thank you from the three of us, from all of Great Plains, for the opportunity to work on this contract. There are a lot of thank yous to go around. First and foremost, the Board of Equalization yourselves, Rick Vest, Roma Edmondson, Christy Yoakum, Deb Shore, Sean Flowerday, and of course, Jennifer Brinkman helped out on the beginning part of this process, had a couple meetings with her. Appreciate all of you and her in that process. Carrie Egan and Ames helped a lot. We spent a lot of time working on the contract. Hopefully this year it's a 1, 2, 3-year options. We don't have to sit down and do this every single year. We can just continue to work and make the process better. Purchasing was Robert Walla as well. Spent a lot of time working with him. In the county attorney's office, Dan Zig, Dave Durbin, Jennifer Holloway all worked in different parts of this, whether it be Turk pending with Dan or Dave and Jennifer on the contract itself for both the pending contract that we had, the extensions, everything that we've had. So appreciate that help. County clerk, of course, we work with them more during this process than probably anyone. Dan Nolte, Corey Beatty, Leslie Dillon, and Joran, thanks for all their help. We probably talked to them more than they wanted to hear from us. And so appreciate that help. In the assessor's office, had more, I will say, as the assessor's office, we've always had a great relationship with them. I want to tell those guys thank you because I feel like there's been more transparency than ever with their office, not to us necessarily, but to the public. And I'll go through a few of those things that we changed this year that were positive. But Rob Ogden, Scott Gaines, Derek Niederklein, Michelle Slack, additional staff in the office as well that did some things behind the scenes for us. So appreciate that help. County Sheriff, Captain Josh Clark was the coordinator overall for the sheriffs. We worked with deputies Mike Hipps, William Woodruff, Amy Leeson, Dylan Hicks, John McGann. Appreciate all the help. Woody is going to be retiring, so happy retirement to him. So this will be our last year with him. So thank you to everyone from us at Great Plains. We very much appreciate it. Overall, the three of us coordinators, I already introduced ourselves. We used 27 total referees, including ourselves. We did split our time between being referees and coordinators. We all did coordinate. I don't know if it was necessarily an equal share, but we all did coordinate at some level. We all helped on hearing dates. We all coordinated. We were all referees, so we were all part of the process. We've been assistant coordinators over the years, so it was a natural progression into coordinating the entire process. We did have 2 trainees this year. So we had 2 trainees we went to only the referees that we have used in the past, just for consistency and for ease for this year. 2 trainees were trainees of our existing referees, and so they came on. We got them a couple training sessions. A couple of them heard some hearings, did some waived packets, and so we were able to start building our referees for next year. Some funner numbers, I guess. We had 1 postponed cataract surgery by a referee, so that was an interesting thing. She wanted to help, and we did lean on one referee very hard, and she postponed her surgery. I think we had 2 babies born. Dan Zig had a baby, and Carlos Lopez in our office actually finished his packets at 4, and his baby was born at like 8:06 p.m. Wow. And so it was a quick process there. I think there was 1 wedding. Sounds like hopefully it went off without a hitch. So everyone was living their lives during this process, and so appreciate everyone in there. I know Dan Zig was talking to Jason, I think the day that she was induced. So appreciate all their efforts and help. As a whole, 2019 was a reval year for residential. That's evident in the amount of protests we had that were residentially charged. We had 2,630 total protests this year. 90%, or 2,369, were residential. So that's exactly what we expected in a reval year. Of that, another 109 were commercial, so only 4%, and 152 were agricultural, or 6%. So on a reval year where it was residentially heavy, we expected to see that. It made sense. Overall, there were 241 no-shows, about 9%. 720, about 27% were waived, and 1,669 showed up to their hearings. The no-show at 241 might sound like a lot, but I actually think that number has gone down. In the efforts with the county, I will commend them on the way in which they schedule these. In the past, it was, here's your time, you do it, if it works or not. As some of you know, we had a lot of no-shows, a lot of rescheduling. I will commend the clerk's office. I think this system works very, very well. It doesn't seem like we're missing many people, and they work with the property owners. And so I think the clerk should be commended for that. The waived 720, I'll talk about this when we talk about the market trends, but I'm not overly worried about 720 not having a hearing. A lot of those were appraisals, sales, information that was easy to get. And so a lot of those are, information was in there. We knew what it was. It was easy to process. And so it may seem like a large number, but it's not really in the grand scheme of things. Talking about the process itself, we did ask for, and you asked us for some changes this year. You know, we're always striving to do a better job, make it more efficient for not only the board, for ourselves, but for ultimately the property owners and the taxpayers. There was no additional information allowed after the hearing was complete. This is a new thing this year. I think that we are probably working through this. There are a lot of people that know that they could usually come here, and so there's been a little bit of friction because of that, but ultimately I think it will be better in the long run, that we'll have some hard dates that will make this a better system going forward. And so I think it was very much a positive. Just as a whole, not having to stop, and I think last year we had about 200 that we had to re-review, read into this process. We have to stop, turn around on a Friday after hearings, and then give all of our packets to the clerk on a Monday. Here we were able to have about a week and a half to actually do it, and we found, so 3 of these were things that we were able to find. We were able to do a better job. We were able to review the Turk pending a little bit more with a little harder lens, get us an idea of where are those going to be, and maybe find some information in there, give them a harder look. You know, I know Jason and I spent quite a bit of time on 2 or 3 larger properties in town, in the city. Those were more difficult. We were able to give them more time and their adequate consideration with such the amount of data that we were given. So I think it's a positive. Welcome any comments from the board on that, but I do think on our end it was a very much a positive. Again, no additional testimony here outside of comment. I do think that's a positive. It might be a little bit tough this year, but I think going forward it will be a positive for the whole process. Again, gives us the time to do a job better and more efficiently early on. One of the big changes with the assessor, and this is what I alluded to earlier, is that we talked, and if you remember, Commissioner Shore, we talked about having the assessor be a part of the system and a part of the process. Rob Ogden offered that, and we took him up on it. And so every day that we were there was an assessor on site, and it was actually just Michelle Slack with it. She did it every day. And we had talked about being there for an hour or 2, and she would usually stay 3, 4, 5 hours. It's really twofold. One, it allows our referees a direct access to someone to explain to them the system. You know, we only are able to review what's in the packet, what's given to us. We may not be able to see the models that they're using or their reasoning. And so we're able to have a dialogue, not about the value, but about how they arrived at the value. And it really was a resource that our referees, I know, greatly enjoyed and used. And the second part that they did is they offered on-site inspections. We would do an inspection right away. So the referees were allowed to set up an inspection for the assessor as long as we gave them 24-hour notice, and then they would complete them.
Oh, that's good.
That was great. We had 103 of those, and a lot of them did change. It was almost all listing data. It was, I don't have a basement finish, I don't have that addition, or those types of things. Part of the process in the summer that people can get frustrated with is if they come to us, they say something is different than what the assessor says, we agree with them, we change it, and then next year it goes right back to where it was. It was a disconnect. This has bridged that gap, at least in this process. We aren't catching them all. We're only catching the ones that people come up and bring it to our attention. But it was a positive all the way around, if you ask me, and I think the assessor's office would agree with that. They were also able to go out and see a lot of these properties that we have is because they haven't been in these homes. People are at work when the assessors are coming out. They aren't available to come out. So we're able to schedule it at their time rather than just, hey, we're knocking on your door and you're at work. And so that was a great process. I look forward to that in the future. I think that they would offer that as well. And so those are the two big changes with the assessor. Again, thank you to them for offering that. Thank you for them for doing it. And thank you for Michelle for being there. We appreciate it. General market trends. This is an expanding and active residential market. This is the reason that we needed a reval after 2 years rather than the standard 3. We saw that. Part of that process is we see a lot of appraisals, a lot of sales that may not be in the system yet, that may not be verified sales yet. So we are seeing a lot of that. I understand when property owners are frustrated if they have an appraisal or a new sale that's late 2018 or 19 and it's not in the system yet, but we're seeing those things, we're catching them, we're helping the assessor validate the sale or not, talking to them about them, getting appraisals. So we saw a lot of that this year, a very lot. That was probably a lot of the waived. They were sales, they were appraisals they submitted. Large amount of acreage protests. As you know, Lancaster County has a lot of demand for housing right now. The acreage market has been very hot, and we've seen a lot of demand in that market for sales. People have been buying and selling, building, new developments coming on. And so we saw a lot of acreage. They were most likely someone that has lived on an acreage or a farmstead for 30 years and said, why is this going up so much? It's a direct result of that demand in that market. And so we did see a lot of that. Try to take into account as much as we could with any information provided, but it was just it was a trend this year that we saw coming through. Even in a reval year, there were only 2,630 protests. That's really a very manageable year. I don't think that it was unmanageable by any stretch, especially in the manner in which we ran it this year. On a reval year, to have only 2,600, I think a few years ago we were approaching 10,000 on a reval year. We had some very big years in the last 15 years. And so I think that is a testament also to the informal appeals that the assessor does. I think that's another positive that's come out of the last few years. They heard about 7,200. Again, listing data, new sales, appraisals. They are doing inspections in that process as well. And so we're seeing those things get better. The system itself is getting better by virtue of hearing these protests and changing the listings. So twofold. The assessor out there and us being able to validate that listing and the assessor doing it earlier is going to make this better and more efficient. Every year that you can make the system better, when you hit enter and tell it to kick out a number and it's got better data, it's going to give you a better number. So a positive all around for that. And we're happy with the numbers. I think it was actually a little under what we expected. I think we were thinking 3,500. And so it was a very manageable year. With that, Great Plains appreciates the opportunity to work with and for the board. We hope our commitment to the process is evident. We look forward to working with the Board of Equalization in this capacity in the future and other projects as well. And we would have any questions, we would love to answer them for you.
Questions? Okay, well.
Very thorough presentation, very informative.
And I really appreciate how Great Plains and how the assessor has worked together to create a smoother process.
Yep.
I think the very fact that you have attendance on site as well as with the 24-hour inspection, the inspections within 24 hours, I think that has made a significant impact. And it's, we appreciate that.
Well, and we appreciate the clerk's office and assessor's office both. We've actively been discussing with them how to make this better. We are preparing ourselves for this meeting, but we're working on next year already. And so we've actively discussed that with the clerk and the assessor. And so I think we'll be better going forward, as we have every year. We always try to make it a better system.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. And we do have public here. I don't know if there's any public comment. I would like to say before we begin with that, though, as was mentioned, we're not accepting any new information today. If you do have any additional information that you would like to present in terms of your evaluation, please file your request and forward that to the TERC, Tax Equalization and Review Commission. And you will be receiving a letter in the mail very shortly, which will document your final valuation and indicate what future steps you might wish to do to continue your appeal with the state. Do we have any public comments?
Are we limiting public comment? Is there?
Oh, yes. We have 3 minutes for public comment.
I just need a minute. Thank you.
Okay.
Zach Hardy had protest number 19-00069. One thing that I wanted to mention, this is an appraisal from Great Plains that I paid $400 this year. And the reason I did this is because I was frustrated with the process over the last 4 years for my house value going up about 30%. Every year, I would come in and do a protest and the value would be adjusted. And unfortunately, this year it happened again. So I hired an independent appraisal. It happens to be Great Plains. And what I did was I took the content of that information that they provided me and I copied anything that an ordinary person would take to their protest. And I gave that to the referee. And there was absolutely no consideration of what I submitted by the referee. The value that was proposed by the assessor's office is what the referee proposed as well. So the reason I wanted to mention that is obviously I'm going to go in front of TURB board and they will most likely accept this because it's a valid appraisal. But there is a broken system, unfortunately. I'm glad to hear that there's so many things that have worked very well, but every single year since 2015, I've been doing this. And yet, and I can provide this, I know I can submit this after the fact, but it's exact same copies of what the assessor from Great Plains mentioned. The value difference that they proposed was about 10% rather than 30% from the assessor's office. So I just wanted to mention that there is the system is still not perfect, and I'm one of those that unfortunately has to go through this every single year. So, and there's a license from the appraisal here too that I have. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello there.
Hi.
Long time no see.
Is this the mic?
Yeah.
No sign in? Good afternoon. My name is Carla Waldbaum. I am a real estate agent and I've been licensed since 2002. Over the years, I've helped a lot of our taxpayers with their property tax protests. I don't know if anybody remembers, but I was here in 2017, kind of doing the same thing that our last taxpayer was talking about, trying to help people with kind of having what they felt was a little bit more of a fair assessment of their property. And what I actually, everything that the person before me shared is exactly what I think, that it is a great improvement from maybe what we had 2 years ago and prior to that, but it is definitely a flawed and broken system. And when people go in, and I go with people to see this happen, they go in and they meet with the referee, they get an appraisal, or they've just purchased their house, which is why I'm there. I was their realtor. And they're told that the value, because they paid, we'll just say they paid $155 for their house. The referee, during the informal protest, we were told you can't just use what you paid for the house as a determination of what the value of the house is, because that's called chasing the sale. I don't know, I still don't have a clear idea or definition of what chasing the sale is, but prior to Mr. Ogden's position, I believe that Mr. Norm Agana, he would use that. That was kind of the company, or not the company, but the department policy, that if this is what you paid for your house, that's market value, that's what it's worth. And so when that change was made, it kind of flip-flopped everything for people who, years and years and years of protesting their taxes, getting an appraisal. I had that happen too to some of my clients and friends. We have an appraisal, we go in, we're told doesn't matter. Appraisal doesn't matter. So it's kind of I know I'm short on time, but I guess I just wanted to reiterate everything that the gentleman before me said. it does feel like you're wasting your time, and this is what I said in 2017. We go in, we help people with their protest, you do the informal appeal or the informal protest, and then you go back and meet with the referee. The referee is very, very understanding, and then you get a letter that says we didn't change anything. And so, kind of just a broken system that I think lots of people would like to help fix. So, do you have any questions for me?
I don't believe so. Thank you, Carla.
Absolutely.
Good afternoon. My name's Dane Nimick, homeowner. This is the second time in just as many.
Could we get you to sign in, please?
I suspect I'm reiterating what a lot of property owners find. In 2016, we did a remodel. 2017, it was assessed. I went to the referee. It was corrected. 2019, all of a sudden I see a 30% increase, almost the cost of the remodel that they already checked out. And at this point, I start wondering if the system is still broken. It probably is getting better. But this year, we were listed as a 4 typical. Now all of a sudden we're listed as a 5 average plus. And I'm not sure how that thing changed. In the last referee, I brought all the pictures, all the details of the house, and the referee decided in our favor and actually reduced it down. This time we're told, no, this with that 5 average plus rating on your house, no chance. I suspect a few things that could change the thing, and I know this won't ever happen, is that if you say my house is worth $300,000, then you have the option of buying it for $300,000. The trouble is that would take away from the tax base. And I suspect that very frequently that number would never get sold for that $300,000. The city would lose, the county would lose. Another option is if the increase is more than 5%, if the increase is more than 5%, the county pays for an appraiser and they have to settle with that appraiser's value. But an appraiser would have to be picked by the homeowner, not by the assessor's office. Because when little pieces of data change in my evaluation or my data sheet, I suspect somebody is trying to raise the value of my home or inflate the value of my home. I really would love to see that change so that I don't see all kinds of things year after year after year trying to appeal, because it's hundreds of man hours on my part. I did an evaluation of every home in our neighborhood that had sold. Average sale price, $219. All the ranches. Ours was a ranch. Ours is now listed at the top of the entire neighborhood, even though we're bounded by 40th Street on one side, so we've got traffic all the time. It is kind of disheartening. It makes it feel like you're just punching a bag and nothing's going to ever give. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for coming up. Is there anyone else? And good afternoon.
Hi, my name's Jerry Monahan. My protest number was 19-01302. And today I'm here to ask clarification on my home valuation. I do have a condensed handout of 2 pages versus 20-some pages I gave to the assessor and during my protest evaluation, including pictures of the properties. I live in a 7-unit townhouse complex. There's 7 units. We're all wall to wall to wall. I live on the inside unit. Mine is one of the two smallest ones. I have 2 bedrooms and a 1-car garage, and my 2018 value went from $115.50 to $141. My 3 comps, they were all valued much less, and it's interesting because my neighbor's comps are in an area that's really close, and all of my comps were in an area far away. Okay, there's 2 small units, 3 middle units, and 2 large end units. My next door neighbor with the same square footage of 1,060 square feet also has a 2-bedroom, a 1-car garage. Her valuation went from $109,800 to $125,700. That townhome was updated, then sold in October for $126,990. But the most interesting part is the 2 large end units, which are 3-bedroom, a 2-car garage, 1,356 square feet, are valued at $136,000 to $500,000 and $500,000 to $143,000. One sold in 2019. Okay, the 3 middle townhouses with 1,320 square feet and a 1-car garage were valued at $124,600 to $129,900. So I don't understand how the unit can be more than the big unit. I can park 1 car in my parking lot, where the neighbors can park 2 to 4. It just doesn't make sense. State law requires that counties are physically supposed to inspect residential properties. Mine has not been looked at, a field review, since 5/11 of 2011. So I just wonder, why does mine valued more than my neighbors that have a lot more property than I? And all that information and photos were given in my prior information. Any questions? Would you like a copy of my condensed handout?
Well, actually, we are not, as I mentioned before, accepting any new information today, and if this is information that was already given, then that would not be new information. I would suggest that you file your request and that information with the state Turk
I will be
office.
doing that, and I do agree with some of these people back here. Every year that mine comes out, mine's more than the big units, and so I have to come and do my thing, and sometimes it makes a difference, but a lot of times it doesn't.
Well, I thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Anyone else? Okay, well, I guess I would be open to a motion.
I move to accept the recommendations of the referee coordinator for 2019 real property valuations as established by the record, except where the Board of Equalization has determined a revised value was warranted during the appeal process.
I would second.
Have a motion and a second to accept the recommendations of the referee coordinator for 2019 real property valuations. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Shore,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Yocum,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
I move to close the Board of Equalization acting upon the individual real property valuation protest for 2019 and with gratitude to all of the participants involved.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to close the Board of Equalization. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Vest,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Yocum,
Yes.
Amundson.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
And I also would like to, we are adjourned, but I would like to also give a special thanks to the Great Plains personnel, to the county clerks, and to specifically to Michelle Slack for spending so much time out there, and to the additional time that the county assessor opened up for private protests. And thank you to all the people who did attend. I appreciate that very much. Thank you so much.